Well, it's been a while since my last video, and that's something I'm going to discuss in just a little bit. The last video I posted was me talking about the current betting favorites to win the Heisman Trophy in 2022. Now, there were some names that you'd expect to be in the top 10, but there were also some really surprising names as well. Today, I'm going to be sharing my personal way too early Heisman top 10. These are the 10 players who I think have the best chance at competing for the Heisman Trophy in 2022. Before we get to today's video, make sure to smash that subscribe button and turn on those notifications if you're new to my channel. If you love college football, then this is definitely the place for you. Also, if you could take a second and drop a like on this video, I would greatly appreciate it as well. It helps share the video with more college football fans, and it only takes a second to do. But before I get to my top 10, a little on why I've been absent over the course of the last month. For those of you that know, I cover the Dodgers for SB Nation, and they recently fired me over a Zoom call with essentially no real reason whatsoever. It's been taking me a while to gather all of the information to see if I can make a case for wrongful termination because, again, essentially none of it makes sense, and it just really sucks because that was a job I really loved. I've been doing it ever since I graduated college, and it was my job that paid the bills. So that means I'm gonna have more time for YouTube, and I'm gonna be turning this into my full-time job for the time being while I look for another job out there. So if you guys could drop a like on this video and drop a comment, it'll help grow the videos, which could really help me given the circumstances going on right now. Plus, if you have any ideas for future videos, drop comments down below and those can turn into my next videos. But alright, now it's time to talk about some college football. We're going to kick things off with a running back, as I have Wisconsin running back Braylon Allen coming in at number 10. We've seen a number of great Wisconsin running backs over the last decade, but there's a strong chance that Allen is the best of the entire bunch. As a true freshman, he rushed for nearly 1,300 yards while averaging 7 yards a carry. He also added 12 rushing touchdowns as well. Oh, and he did all of this while at the age of 17. No, seriously, he was 17 all of last season and didn't turn 18 until January. Even for the upcoming season, he's likely going to be one of the youngest players on the entire field. It wasn't until October in which Allen really started to show out. Through the first 3 games he appeared in, he only had 12 carries, but in 8 of his final 9 games, he rushed for at least 100 yards. He had games in which he rushed for 140 yards with 2 touchdowns, 170 yards and 3 touchdowns, and a game against Nebraska in which he rushed for 230 yards with 3 rushing touchdowns. The fact that he put up these numbers as a 17-year-old is truly remarkable, and I think he's going to be in the conversation for the best running back in college football in 2022. Up next is a quarterback we've seen limited action from, but the small sample size has been pretty exciting. Florida starting quarterback Anthony Richardson. The quarterback situation was kind of weird for the Gators last year, but I think Richardson is going to be the starting quarterback in 2022. Last season, he attempted only 64 passes, but he threw for over 500 yards with 6 passing touchdowns. He also rushed for over 400 yards with 3 touchdowns on the ground on only 50 carries. His first 2 games of the season were remarkable, as he rushed for 160 yards and a touchdown on 7 carries and 115 yards and a touchdown on only 4 carries. He's definitely one of the best mobile quarterbacks in the entire country. We're just going to have to wait and see how he looks as a passer this season. I'm not certain how good Florida's going to be or if Anthony Richardson can take the next step, but I certainly think he has a chance to be a quarterback that throws for 3,000 yards while rushing for 1,500 yards while having about 40 combined touchdowns. Again, that is a huge if, but I certainly think it's something that can happen. Up next is a quarterback who was number 3 on the way too early FanDuel odds, Miami quarterback Tyler Van Dyke. Although I'm pretty high on him, I wouldn't have him all the way up at number 3. However, having him in my top 10 is still a pretty solid place to be. In my opinion, Van Dyke was one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the entire country last season. Even when I looked at his numbers following the year, I was blown away at just how good he was. In 10 games, he threw for 3,000 yards with 25 passing touchdowns and 6 interceptions. Over the second half of the season, Van Dyke was one of the top quarterbacks in the entire country. Over his final 6 games, he threw for at least 325 yards in every game and averaged 365 passing yards per game. He also threw 20 passing touchdowns during that 6-game stretch, throwing at least 3 in every game. Now, that's a full season pace of 4,500 yards with 40 passing touchdowns. Not too many quarterbacks can put up those numbers over a full season, but I think Van Dyke certainly can in 2022. We saw a Pittsburgh quarterback in the Heisman running last season, and I think we'll see another this year. After a rough ending to his time at USC, Kedon Slovis will be the new starting quarterback for the Panthers. We've seen Slovis have success in college football as he's thrown for over 7,500 yards with 58 passing touchdowns throughout his career. Now, he goes to a Pittsburgh offense that essentially returns everyone from last season, including Biletnikoff Award winner Jordan Addison. We've seen Slovis throw for 3,000 yards and 30 touchdowns in a season, and I think that's going to be the floor with him in this offense, assuming everything goes well. I don't know if he'll quite replicate Kenny Pickett's numbers, but he definitely can come close. And who knows, if everything goes right, maybe Kedon Slovis has a chance to have a better season than Kenny Pickett did. Up next is a player who I'm really excited for in 2022. The only problem is he has two other players on his team who can also win the Heisman Trophy. Ohio State wide receiver Jaxon Smith-Njigba is, in my opinion, the best wide receiver in all of college football. I think he's going to put up insane numbers next season, but his only problem is that the numbers are going to be great for his quarterback, who we'll talk about later in this video. Last season, while playing alongside Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave, Smith-Njigba caught 95 passes for 1,600 yards and 9 touchdowns. He was pretty solid through the first half of the season, but it was the final month in which he really cemented himself as the best wide receiver on Ohio State's offense. I mean, listen to his numbers from his final 5 games of the season. 15 catches for 240 yards and a touchdown, 9 catches for 140 yards with a touchdown, 10 catches for 105 yards with a touchdown, 11 catches for 130 yards. And, of course, the game that everyone remembers the most, his performance from the Rose Bowl, in which he caught 15 passes for 350 yards and 3 touchdowns. He'll be the number 1 option this season, and I think he has a chance to have one of the best seasons we've ever seen from a wide receiver. Even better than Devontae Smith's Heisman winning season from just a few years ago. Before I get to my top 5, drop a comment down below and share with me who your Heisman favorites are for the 2022 season. Also, if you could take a second and drop a like on this video, I would greatly appreciate it as well. You know, you just gotta help out that YouTube algorithm. Up next, we have Texas running back Bijan Robinson, who many consider to be the best running back in all of college football. In 10 games last season, he rushed for over 1,100 yards with 11 rushing touchdowns. He also added 26 receptions for 300 yards with 4 receiving touchdowns. I think this Texas offense has a chance to be one of the best offenses in the entire country in 2022. And Bijan Robinson is going to be the main focal point for them next year. He had a 5-game stretch in which he rushed for at least 130 yards in every game while having a total of 10 touchdowns. Injuries derailed his second half before he ultimately was shut down before the season ended. If Robinson's able to stay healthy, I think he'll put up some of the best numbers among all running backs in the entire nation. The quarterback I'm most excited to see in 2022 is Ole Miss quarterback Jaxson. After winning the starting job at USC, he entered the transfer portal once Caleb Williams entered the portal. He ended up at Ole Miss, where he'll lead one of the most explosive offenses in the entire country. We saw what kind of a season Matt Corral had last year under Lane Kiffin, and I think Jaxson is going to be even better. In case you forgot, he was one of the top quarterback prospects while coming out of high school. He showed flashes here and there last season while at USC, but he was still pretty raw as a quarterback. With more time to develop and learn under Lane Kiffin, plus being in that Ole Miss offense, I think Jaxson is going to be lighting up the scoreboard with ease. I think if you had a bet on which quarterback would throw for the most yards and touchdowns in 2022, Dart would be right near the top for betting favorites. If you like a lot of points, I highly recommend checking out Ole Miss games with Jaxson as their quarterback next season. Bryce Young is probably still the best quarterback in the entire country, but winning the Heisman twice is extremely difficult, as it's only happened once before. While he certainly can win it again, I don't think he's going to be able to. But hey, I still have him 3rd on my list. Young had one of the best seasons from a quarterback we've seen in recent memory, as he threw for nearly 5,000 yards with 47 passing touchdowns last year. I think it'll be very tough for him to replicate those numbers, as he's losing a lot of offensive weapons at Alabama. Still, it's the Crimson Tide, and he'll be surrounded with elite talent across the board. It's just going to be tough to convince voters to vote for him again unless the numbers are even better. Number 2 goes to USC quarterback Caleb Williams. Now, I've talked about him probably 15 times during the offseason, so I'll save his entire story because you already know it. I think he has a chance to be really damn good at USC, and I think USC is going to be competing for a Pac-12 title. We saw the numbers he was putting up in a few games at Oklahoma, and I think he's going to be able to do that over a full season. Williams is going to have a number of great offensive weapons on this completely revamped Trojans offense, and I think he's ready to put on a show. Of course, it's really tough to bank on USC being a good team, but this certainly looks like an offense on paper that can win a lot of games. But my number one pick to win the Heisman Trophy in 2022, as of March 28th, is Ohio State quarterback CJ Stroud. He finished 4th in Heisman voting last year, and I think he has the best chance to be the best player in the country next season. In 2021, he threw for 4,400 yards with 44 passing touchdowns and only 6 interceptions. He threw for at least 300 yards in all but 3 games and had 5 games with at least 400 yards. Oh, and remember that Rose Bowl game that I briefly mentioned earlier? Well, he threw for nearly 600 yards with 6 passing touchdowns. He had a number of games last season in which opposing defenses had no answers for him. Hell, even in Ohio State's loss to Michigan, he was still great as he threw for 400 yards with 2 touchdowns and no interceptions. I think CJ Stroud is going to light up the stat sheet next year, and I think he has a really good chance to throw for over 5,000 yards and over 50 passing touchdowns. So those are the 10 players who I currently like the most to win the Heisman Trophy in 2022. Was there a player that you didn't think should be in this list, or was there a player missing that should have been on the list? Let me know in the comment section down below. If you guys haven't done so yet, make sure to smash that subscribe button and turn on those notifications if you're new to my channel. If you love college football, then this is definitely the place for you. Also, drop a comment down below with any video suggestions you may have. Like I said, I unfortunately have a lot more time to make videos now, so your suggestion might turn into my next video. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video.